Benjamin Franklin once said, "There are only two things certain in this life, death and taxis." And today we're going to focus on death. Now, before you click off, don't worry, this isn't a morbid video. It's more of a celebratory kind of video. We're going to look around this graveyard at some of the amazing monuments, tombs, some of the most notable people who are buried here. Buried where, I hear you ask? Here, in Glasgow's Necropolis. This burial ground was always intended to be interdenominational, and the first burial in 1832 was that of a Jewish man named Joseph Levi, who was a jeweller. In 1833, the first Christian burial was of Elizabeth Miles, stepmother of the superintendent George Myline. After 1860, the burial ground was extended to the south to the Ladywell Quarry, and in 1877 and 1892-93, the final extensions to the north and southeast were constructed, doubling the size of the cemetery to its current size of 37 acres. 50,000 burials have taken place at the necropolis, and most of the 3,500 tombs have been constructed up to 14 feet deep. On the top of the necropolis, tombs were blasted out of the rock face. In 1877, the Mollendiner burn, running under the Bridge of Sighs, was culverted. That was the burn in which St Mungo was said to have fished for salmon, but it now runs underground on its way to the River Clyde. The necropolis was one of the few cemeteries to keep records of the dead, including profession, ages, sex, and cause of death. In July 1878, the Visitors Book shows that over 13,000 people visited the Glasgow Necropolis. The necropolis sits atop a hill behind Glasgow's St Mungo's Cathedral, and uphill from the Tennant's Lager factory in the east end of Glasgow, and it began its life in 1832, making it 193 years old. The necropolis is based on the very famous and indeed biggest necropolis in the world, the Père Lachaise Cemetery in Paris, which had opened 28 years earlier in 1804. The main entrance to the necropolis is approached by a bridge over what was then the Mollendiner burn. This bridge, which was designed by David Hamilton, was completed in 1836. It became known as the Bridge of Sighs because it was part of the route of funeral processions. The name is an allusion to the Bridge of Sighs in Venice. Let's start with one of the most prominent monuments of all, sitting right at the top of the hill. In 1650, the merchant's house bought the land which was part of the estate of Westercraigs. It was planted with fir trees and became known as Fir Park. In 1825, the foundation stone for this monument was laid. So this monument is actually predating the beginning of the necropolis by 7 years, when it simply sat at the top of Fir Park. And here it is, the monument to John Knox. John Knox principally shaped the Church of Scotland during the Reformation of 1560, when it split from the Catholic religion and established itself as a church in the Reformed tradition. Although John Knox was not a Glaswegian, as he was born in Haddington and died in Edinburgh, the monument was erected as a memorial to his impact in the Scottish religious system. He may have attended Glasgow University, but that's not certain. The monument does not contain his grave, however, but I thought I would start with it, as it sits prominently on top of the hill. The next grave belongs to a man by the name of William Miller. Now that name might not mean much to you, but you probably know the poem that he popularised. He kind of wrote some of it. He added some extra verses onto an already existing poem to make a 5-stanza poem. And it's a nursery rhyme that children all over Europe were frightened to death of. It was supposed to put them to sleep. It was told at the end of the night. Can you guess what nursery rhyme it is?
Wee Willie Winkie runs through the town, upstairs and downstairs in his night gown, tirling at the window, crying at the lock. Are the weans in their bed? For it's now 10 o'clock.
I don't know why I made that sound scary. I guess it must be just because I'm in a graveyard, right? The poem was first printed in Whistle Binkie in 1841, and such was the popularity of Wee Willie Winkie that the character has become one of several bedtime entities, such as the Sandman. He is said to sprinkle sand into the eyes of children at night to bring on sleep and dreams. The Grit, or sleep in your eyes when you wake up in the morning, is supposedly residue from the Sandman's work the previous night. Ole Lukoji, I don't know if I'm saying that right, I'll put it down on the screen. Ole Lukoji of Scandinavia, who gently puts children to sleep and, depending on how good or bad they were that day, shows them various dreams. Then in the Netherlands, he's called Klaas Vaak. In France, Dormet. And in Lancashire, Billy Winker. Yes, it seems like there was a version of Wee Willie Winkie all over the place, with one aim in mind: to get the little blighters to sleep. Now you know why I made Wee Willie Winkie sound scary. I think I speak for all the children in Europe when I say, thanks William Miller for all those sleepless nights. Here we have the grave of the industrialist who discovered bleaching powder and began a chemical empire that powered Glasgow's growth. Charles Tennant was a chemical magnate whose chemical works were once the largest in the world. The Tennant family were from Alloway in Ayrshire, and they were friends with none other than the Scottish poet Robert Burns. In Rabbie Burns' epistle to James Tennant of Glenconner, Tennant is mentioned as Wabster Charlie. That's Scots language for weaver, in reference to the occupation Tennant had undertaken. And there he is, atop his monument, overlooking the city that his wealth helped to shape. Some of these graves are truly magnificent. That's William McGavin, merchant, Glasgow, author of The Protestant. He died aged 59. Wow, Duncan McFarlane must have been a very important man. He became the principal of Glasgow College in 1823. This is a monument to John Henry Alexander. There's a statue there of, I think it's a woman with her head off. She seems to be holding it. This is quite an impressive monument. You can really see that there are 3,500 monuments here. A fraction of the amount of people buried at the necropolis. So what does necropolis mean? Well, it comes from a Greek word. I'll let you read it. Necro means dead, and polis means, no, not that kind of polis. Polis means city. So necropolis means city of the dead. And these necropolises, or is it necropoli? Yeah, we'll go with necropoli. These necropoli were built with beautiful monuments, huge tombs, and they were usually placed on the outskirts of a city. But of course, as time goes on, cities expand, and eventually the city encroaches on these necropoli. Oh, I just hope that's a word. The Monteith Mausoleum, opened in 1842, is one of the most dramatic structures on the hill. It features a circular design, iron doors, Gothic stonework. It looks like something from Game of Thrones. This mausoleum was commissioned by Major Archibald Douglas Monteith, who made his fortune in India. He was born in May 1773, served as an officer of the East India Company, and later returned to Glasgow, where he died in 1842. He supposedly made his fortune when an elephant carrying precious gems belonging to the Maharaj was captured and relieved of its load by him. The mausoleum is a neo-Norman rotunda designed by David Cousin, and it's 30 feet in diameter. Look at the detail of the faces of the 48 individual Dwar Palas who guard the mausoleum around the doorway and each niched window. These are common in Indian and Hindu temples, palaces and forts. And let me tell you a little secret. There have been long told rumours about treasure locked up inside it. It certainly lives up to its name as the most iconic mausoleum in the necropolis. So there you have it, the final resting place of Archibald Douglas Monteith. As the sun sets over Glasgow's skyline each night, the necropolis falls once again into silence. These stones, these paths, they've watched over the city for nearly 2 centuries, holding the stories of triumph, tragedy, and mystery. The William Wallace Memorial. Braveheart, William Wallace, 1297. An enduring tradition states that in 1297 William Wallace and his men routed the English garrison from nearby Glasgow Castle and forced them to flee. This later became known as the Battle of the Bell of the Brae. In my last week's video about the Arlington pub, I spoke about the Stone of Destiny being stolen by Edward Longshanks. That was the year before the Battle of the Brae in 1296. If you haven't seen that video, check it out. The Stone of Destiny is really in the Arlington pub. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this tour of the necropolis. I thoroughly recommend it. It's very, it's nostalgic, it's beautiful, the architecture's amazing. And just seeing all of the mausoleums and all the tombs, it's just unbelievable. I've spent the whole day here. It's been a glorious day. It's been full of tourists, loads of French. I'm wondering if they're Parisians coming over to compare it to the Père Lachaise in Paris. I'd really love to go to that one, so maybe I will one day. I have been to see the grave of Jules Verne in Amiens in France. That was something else. It's not to sound a bit morbid, haven't I? I'm not. I love the past. This is our past. This is Glasgow's past, Scotland's past. Not everyone in here is from Glasgow. It's Scotland's past. And I highly recommend it. You come and see some of the names you've maybe heard. Some of the shipping magnates, the people who built Glasgow. Many of them are buried here. So, thanks for coming along with me. I hope you enjoyed the tour. And I'll see you next week. Bye now.